Hey, welcome my fellow humble investors. Hey, this week video is going to be an update for everything that happened last week. We're going to look at price action, my current position. We're going to talk about a tweet from Brian Foote, as well as we're going to discuss the highlights of an article that was entitled "How Crypto Startup Humbl Became the Top Penny Stock of 2021." So we're going to take a look at all of that. But before we do that, let me just tell you that on Thursday, FORW had an investors call with George Sharp, who is the CEO of FORW. A lot of great information in that investors call. Took notes on Friday. I went to the board and started doing some calculations and so forth. And I honestly see now that how joined at the hip FORW and Humbl is. I mean, when I say they're joined at the hip, they're joined at the hip. So definitely go ahead and check out that video. That video is entitled "FORW's Equity Stake in Humbl." Check it out. Great information in there. So let's get started with the updates.
Let's go over some of the weekly updates for this week. I'm going to go over a tweet by Brian Foote, Humbl's short position, my position, and some price action for the week. All right, this here is a recent tweet by Brian Foote on Humbl's token engine. And the bottom line is Humbl has created a block token engine that will allow creators, publishers, and merchants to tokenize their digital content on the blockchain, such as digital files, music, and intellectual properties. Humbl is going to actually be a platform for creators to create their own NFTs, non-fungible token. That in itself will help Humbl become a leader in the fintech sector. Next, let's take a look at Humbl's short position. This here is the daily short sales volume. And the reason why I'm keeping track of this is, once that gets too out of whack, out of ratio, now if I'm not mistaken, once we get to about a 60% ratio, now we're looking at a possible short squeeze. This here is my current position. As I stated in an earlier video, my goal was 2,000 shares. Right now I'm sitting at 1,575 with Humbl and 425 currently with FORW. The reason why I'm now including FORW in this is because of the recent FORW investors call, and at the end of that call, I realized that FORW and Humbl are definitely joined at the hip. So this is my indirect play on Humbl through FORW. Now let's take a look at the price actions for the week. If you look at this price action for the week, we see that Humbl on the 12th of March closed at $2.97. It opened at $1.96. It actually increased by 1 penny. But if you look at the day's range, it ranged from $2.80 to $2.99. As you can see from this slide here, the close of the market on Friday, the 12th of March, it closed with a below average volume of 8.8 million. The average volume over a 10-day period of time was 12 million. So this volume pretty much gives me the indication that we're starting to consolidate. And that leads us to our next slide. And if you notice, if you look at that thick black line there, as I said last week, it looks like we were establishing a support at about $3. And as you can see over the course from the 4th to the 12th, it looks like that. I believe that since we're a few pennies below $3, I'm pretty sure that we're going to see some upward movement next week to take us above that support line. All right, my humble investors, here's the article by Thomas Jung that he published on March 6th, and he talked about how a crypto startup Humbl became the top penny stock of 2021. Now, I'm not going to read the whole article to you. What I'm going to do is just highlight certain parts of the article. But if you're interested in reading the article, I'll have a link to it in my description below. Now, some of the key points that really caught my attention from this article here is some points that if you've been following the stock for a while, we're already well aware of it. But it's nice to know that we have an analyst that sees what we're seeing. And some of the key points that really caught my attention is when he talked about the retail investors having an opportunity to get in on the ground floor with a company that could have went the traditional IPO route and went to one of the major indexes right off the bat. So he pretty much realizes that, acknowledged that, and here's a highlighted area here where he says the retail investors have found their way into the world of early stage investing. The recent surge of SPACs, initial coin offering, and OTC stocks mean that the ordinary folks can now buy into companies that were once only available to angel investors and venture capitalists. And he goes on to say that during ordinary times, a startup like Humbl might have ignored the OTC market altogether. But he also talks about the unexpected rise within Humbl, and you're talking about he broke it down into 3 acts, but actually there's a lot more than that. Talks about the e-commerce, the global payments, as well as the cryptocurrency and that block ETX products that's currently in over 100 countries, not in the United States, but it will be. But that in itself, that block ETX, could be a huge market game changer, with the technology that they have, not only the blockchain technology, but that AI technology also when it comes to managing, an ETF. But this is going to be an ETX. Now, something else in here that really caught my attention is when he talked about, really just showing the importance of having audited financial statements, even though they're not perfect, regardless of what indexes the company is listed on. There have been companies out there, major companies out there that have been cooking the books to try to please their shareholder as well as the SEC and so forth. So financial statements aren't perfect. However, they're the most objective source of truth that we, the investors, have. And he talks about that. Now, as we already know, that in the second quarter, Humbl will be sending its financial statements to the SEC for auditing. Here also in the article, he talked about that Humbl could possibly be the next PayPal or not. Just like with any startup company, they can either end up being a hero or zero. I honestly believe, that from everything that we've seen thus far, that there's a higher probability of Humbl being a hero versus a zero. But as it states here, and I don't believe I have this one highlighted, but if you look here, the statement right here. But it's only when the companies relist on a major exchange or publish audited statements that investors will fully find out what's under the hood. The key thing is going to be those audited statements. And that's going to give us an idea of the revenue that's currently being generated in the 100 countries that we have the ETX in. But that is definitely a true statement. And once those statements hit, we can get a better perspective and vector as to the true potential of this company. So definitely looking forward to
it. Updates. I honestly believe that Humbl is going through a consolidation right now. And I think that this week, we're going to start, come Monday, we're going to start to see some price increase. Not a lot, because it's still consolidating, but it's going to continue to hover around that $3 unless we get some great news that's going to catapult it to a higher range. But also we want to keep our eye on that short volume, because if it gets to a certain point, we may be candidates for a possible short squeeze. Maybe nothing to the level of a GameStop, but you just never know. All right, let's keep our eye on that. So guys, think we're going to have a much better week than we had last week. And I'm looking forward to giving you updates next Sunday, if not sooner. You guys take care. Bye.